are in the midst of what we call a message series. And for those of you that maybe it's your first time, second time, you haven't heard me explain this, what we mean by message series, we take a topic and we look at it for a number of weeks. And across those weeks, we're able to give you kind of bite-sized morsels of things that you hopefully can apply to your life. And so today we're coming with part 4 of a message series called Wish You Were Here. Wish You Were Here. And this is a kind of interesting message series in that everybody wishes. And so this is not like a spiritual thing. This is not like, if you're here and you're not even sure you even believe in any of this stuff, you have wishes. Doesn't everybody kind of wish? Or anybody, and again, you saw in our opening, as you looked at the video, people would fill out some cards about what they wish. And there's a lot of wishes that we have. And we wish that we were in a particular place. And so this is part 4 of that. Let me just, before I go into today's message, kind of clue you in. Next week is Father's Day, and we're going to bring a message. Next week is Father's Day, right? Does anybody remember next week is Father's Day? Yeah, see, that right there, that's bad. That's bad because Mother's Day, it's like, oh, it's Mother's Day. It's like, and then people are like, is it Father's Day? It's like, yeah, I think it is. Like, okay, so you have a week to do something about that, okay? Next week is Father's Day, okay? And next week we're also celebrating a special birthday of Carol Henderson. She's going. I'm not going to tell her age. Should I tell you? 70 years old. She's going to be 70. We're celebrating with a whole bunch of family that are coming in this coming weekend, and so we'll be celebrating that. Anyway, just wanted to let you know. And then there's going to be a kind of a standalone message as we go into the last Sunday of this month, which will be the 26th. And then going to bring a special message on the following week for our Independence Day. And then we're going to get into a summer series, which will be good. So anyway, just to let you know what's going on. Again, looking forward to meeting some of you and greeting some of you who I don't get to meet and greet because a lot of times right after worship service or after our morning celebration, I'm talking to this one or to that one. And I'm going to get a chance to meet some of you, and it'd be really good to do that. So let me get into, again, this message on today. And again, the idea here, in this idea of wish you were here, is the fact that we all have a wish. And the wish that we have a place where we wish we were. And this message series, kind of talks about that, has us kind of thinking about where we wish we were. In our first message, we talked about the fact that not only do we have a wish, but God has a wish for us too. And throughout Scripture, especially in the New Testament, you'll see through the writers of the New Testament that is many times in their prayer and in their salutations to the audience that they're writing, they kind of made some declarations that really were God's wish for where we were. And so all of us have a wish. And you can think about what you wish for this summer or where you wish to be and what you wish in terms of your relationships, what you wish, your children will be able to do or your interaction with them, a wish for a certain weight or a wish for a certain level of health. We all have wishes, a wish for certain financial status or a particular job, maybe getting into a school or doing well in a vocation. We all have a wish. And when we think about the wish, we talk about right where we are. We have that wish, and that's kind of a forward thinking. And what we want to do is we want to wish that we get to here, all right? And that, wherever here is, that here is something that, in the future is we're a better person. We're better at this, and we're better connected, and we're, maybe more fluent in terms of our relationships and how we're expressing things. And again, maybe we're lighter and we're healthier. But there's a here that we're trying to get to. And last week, we talked about the fact, and I encourage you, go out to the website and listen to last week's message. Go out to, again, it's called thepointonline.org. Go to the message section. Last week, we talked this sermon. I can't speak it all over again today, but about control yourself. Powerful message that, again, applies to me, applies to you. I think you should definitely look at it and or listen to it. You can download it, listen to it on your iPhone or Android devices and do that. But really, you want to do that. Or if you have time to actually watch it, there's video there too. But I want you to think about that because often self-control or lack thereof prohibits us from getting to where we wish we could be. Anybody say amen to that? Yeah, yeah. No, you're just saying amen because I asked you that, or are you saying amen because really, how many people have experienced that because of my lack of self-control, because I did something I couldn't help doing, I didn't get to where I wish I was. Yeah, yeah. So today, as we think about where we wish we were, as that kind of forward place, that place where, again, things are smoother, we're lighter, we're healthier, we're better connected, your wife, your husband, your children, or just, again, the relationship is a lot better. There is, I guess if you want to give this title to this message today, it's simply this: somebody knows. Somebody knows. Somebody knows how to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Somebody knows. Somebody knows how to get you to have a better relationship. Someone knows how to get you to be able to interact with your children on a better level. Someone knows how to make sure that you can get lighter. Someone knows how, again, they know how to get you there. I don't know. And again, what's interesting is that someone who knows is someplace in the world, but likely there's someone who actually knows you already. And there's someone who you have access to, and they may have even given you some indication of how you can get from where you are right now to where you wish you can be. And so somebody knows. And today I want to kind of talk about this message because the Bible is very interesting. And we're going to actually go to an Old Testament story that some of you may be familiar with. Others, again, you may not. But it's a story that kind of lets us know and kind of illustrates this point really interestingly. And so I'm going to take you into a time in the Bible where God, whose chosen people were again, just living and doing what they do. This was set up, and I say this, God's relationship with his people, his chosen people, and again, I don't know why he chose that particular people. He chose them. That's his choice, okay? But they're the chosen people, and that's cool. And so he had a special relationship. He set it up as a theocracy, that he would be God, and he would govern his people by laws, and there would be judges that would be over them and kind of interpreting. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, we kind of have a piece of that in our democratic system right now, but God had set us up, and we caught on to it some thousands of years later. But this idea that God would be the king, he would be the one in control. There would be a theocracy, and there would be a law that we'd have, and a relationship with his people that the judges would then kind of overrule them, and see how they were doing, and making sure that they were following the laws. Well, it's interesting because, like us today, and it didn't start with us, but they being the children of Israel, the chosen people of God, that everybody else had a king. Everybody else had a king. And, they wanted to have a king too because everybody else had a king. I want an iPhone because everybody else has an iPhone. I want a house because everybody else has a house. I want those sneakers because everybody, again, it didn't start now. This started back then. They wanted a king because everyone else had a king. And so God kind of granted them this whole idea, and they had a king. The first king that they had was Saul, and Saul was the first king, and again, God kind of acquiesced to their wishes, put Saul in. And then there's David, right? David succeeds Saul, and David has a son, Solomon, and Solomon succeeds his father David. And what we see is that each of these kings rule for about 40 years. And it's kind of in this time that we're going to pick up where this comes in. So Saul is king, David is king, and again, that's an interesting story. In fact, let me just encourage you, read your Bibles. I mean, this is a really good reason to read your Bible because there's some really interesting things in. And I know some of you are going like, hold on a second. I'm here. I'm not even sure if I buy into this, if I believe all that. Well, you know what? You don't believe something. You don't read something just because you believe it. You read the newspaper. Do you believe everything you read in the newspaper? Internet, everybody, you read the internet, and it's got to be true if it's on the internet, right? No. You don't read it because you believe it. You read it in order to determine if you believe it. So you need to read your Bibles. Even if you don't think you believe it, read it. Anyway, interesting things in here, and this story's in there. So Solomon succeeded his father David. David came after Saul. And then we're going to pick up here where we've got a gentleman named Rehoboam. Everybody say Rehoboam. Rehoboam. Can you get that? Rehoboam. I want you to say that because he's a key figure in this story. So Rehoboam is the son of Solomon. And as you know, in terms of how kings and again, people who rule, their families tend to rule. And so, again, Solomon was the son of David, and Solomon, of course, and everybody around thinks that Rehoboam was the one who was going to then succeed his father. Rehoboam was again there, and it's interesting because Rehoboam was this story, we're going to kind of talk about him a little bit, but there's another person named Jeroboam, no relation, right? They just happen to have the same last kind of part of their name. But Jeroboam was another gentleman in this story, and I got to give you just a little bit of information about Jeroboam, because Jeroboam, in this kingdom, Jeroboam was like a really top administrator. Solomon, who was the wisest man in many things, and again, he's thought to be the wisest man. He was also very, very rich. Solomon would marry women from other kingdoms, other places, and he would do this often to create a treaty, to have some peace between them. So I'll marry one of your women. And what happened is that when he would do that, and again, if you don't know about polygamy, which there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to do the whole polygamy thing, but this is one of them. When you took a wife in a polygamous relationship, you had to, it wasn't like you just give her a room in your house. You had to actually build her a house. You had to give her a house. And again, I think for obvious reasons, that might probably be a good thing. You have all these wives, you probably want them in separate. I'm just thinking. And by the way, I mean, women don't do the whole polygamy thing, right? I mean, you got enough sense that one husband's like plenty, right? It's okay. Anyway, so in this polygamous kind of things, they would build the houses for the wives that they would take. Solomon, being incredibly rich, incredibly wealthy, didn't just build houses, he built cities for his wives. They would build a city for his wife, and they would have the comforts there. And because of that, there was a whole incredible industry for building these cities for the wives that Solomon would take. And it is thought to, and again, greater minds than mine, but in the research, it's thought that there were 150,000 people, men who would go get stone and carry stone for the express reason of building these cities for Solomon's wives. And over those 150,000 people was this person Jeroboam that I mentioned. Again, no relation to Rehoboam, but Jeroboam was thought to be an incredible administrator. He ran things very well. People got along with him. He was able to make sure things happened and happened well. And it was thought that Jeroboam would be, because of his administrative prowess and that he was really good at it, that he would be the one who would succeed Solomon, even though there was no relation. And a rumor started happening. Jeroboam didn't start it, but somebody started saying, I think Jeroboam would be he'd be a good next king. He'd be a good heir apparent. Now, if you're Jeroboam, you're not real comfortable with that, because the king could have your head. And so Jeroboam, hearing these rumors, he couldn't squash. Don't say that. Jeroboam's like, okay, I'm out, I'm gone. And Jeroboam flees to Egypt. He leaves, he runs, because, again, he knew that it could just so happen that Jeroboam was no more. Like, he went to bed and we never saw him after that. Somebody grabs him and all of a sudden Jeroboam is like, missing person report, we don't know where he is. So Jeroboam leaves, goes to Egypt. And what's interesting is that he goes to Egypt so that he can be safe from Solomon and all those that would probably seek to kill him if they knew that people wanted him to succeed Solomon as king. So our story picks up, and we're going to pick this up in the book of 1 Kings, the 12th chapter. You can get there as I'm talking. Again, if you have your iPhone or something that has a YouVersion of the Bible, or if you have your own just regular paper-turning kind of Bible, turn to 1 Kings, 12th chapter while I'm talking. No, don't go there yet. Where we are with this is that Solomon dies. Solomon dies, and at this point, Solomon dies. Jeroboam is kind of like, okay, king is dead. I can probably go back now. I can probably safely go back. And where we pick up the story is in this succession from Solomon to the next king. And what we're going to pick up is, again, Rehoboam, who is the son of Solomon, who thought to be the kind of rightful heir in terms of the lineage of leadership, he should go there. Jeroboam hears that Solomon is dead, comes back. And this is where we pick the story up. 1 Kings, 12th chapter, let's go there. Rehoboam went to Shechem. Now, Shechem was kind of like the capital city. Before Jerusalem was established, Shechem is this place where it was, was thought to be, and it was really the kind of holy place of the capital in a sense for Israel. And so Rehoboam goes to Shechem. He went to Shechem, for all Israel had gone there to make him king. Again, there's a coronation going to happen because Rehoboam was thought to be the one who was going to succeed his dad. So here we have Rehoboam in Shechem. People are coming there to make him king. Next verse says, when Jeroboam, son of Nebat, heard this, he was still in Egypt where he had fled from King Solomon. Now again, parenthetically, the writer writes this in just in case you didn't know. Jeroboam had been in Egypt, just like I said, because he had run from Solomon. He returned from Egypt. So Jeroboam, again, this person who is thought to be a master administrator, finally feels it's safe. I'm going to go back. I'm going to return. Jeroboam comes back from Egypt, and here's what happens. So they sent for Jeroboam, and he and the whole assembly of Israel went to Rehoboam. Now, Jeroboam comes, and again, there are some people who are thinking that Jeroboam still would be the person that they should have as their king. And they go to Rehoboam, and as they go to Rehoboam, they have something that they want to say to him. And they make this comment as we go through. So they come in, and they're kind of prepared, and they're seeing this as maybe an opportunity, given that Solomon is now dead. Listen to what they say to Rehoboam. Your father, Solomon, put a heavy yoke on us. He was a taskmaster. Again, 150,000 people building cities, and they were stone. They would chop up stone and make stone and for bricks to be able to build up a city and to build up all these structures. And so they said, listen, your father put a heavy yoke on us. He was really a tough taskmaster. But now lighten the harsh labor and the heavy yoke he put on us, and we will serve you. So they're looking at this as an opportunity to kind of get things in a better state for them. So again, your father did it this way, and it was really, really tough on us. Why don't you lighten up a little bit, and we will serve you, Rehoboam. Rehoboam does a couple great things here. Rehoboam answers, and he says, go away for 3 days, and then come back to me. So in other words, give me some time to think about that. By the way, that's a good thing to do. You want to take some time to think about some things. Anybody make a rash decision? You're kind of, maybe in a sense pressed for something, and just make a decision that you later figure, man, if I had a little bit more time, I would have made a better decision. So Rehoboam does something great. And if you want to mark one down for Rehoboam, this is a great thing. He says, okay, go away for 3 days, and then come back to me. So the first good thing that he says, yes, give me some time to think about it. So then the people went away. Second great thing that Rehoboam does is this. Then King Rehoboam, he's not quite king yet, but he's kind of king-elect, if you will, consulted the elders who had served his father Solomon during his lifetime. So not only does he say, give me a second, let's just wait for a moment. Also, let me talk to some of the elders. Let me talk to some people who know. Let me talk to some people who are, who probably have some knowledge, and they work with my dad over the lifetime. They've seen a lot of things. So that's a great thing. Give me some time, and let me get some advice for some older people. So he asked them, how would you advise me to answer these people, he asked. What should I say to them? How would you advise me to answer them? Keep it going. Next slide. They replied, if today you will be a servant to these people. Now again, they're talking to Rehoboam, who's the king. And this is, by the way, an interesting thing. If anybody here a leader, anybody manage people, anybody over people at all? Yeah, okay, this is a good thing to listen to what they're saying to her. Even though, Rehoboam, you're the king, listen to what they say, the elders, the wise men. They replied, if you will be a servant to these people and serve them and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your servants. Wow. It's interesting. And again, just as a side note, a little tangent here, for those of us that are leaders, there's something that's called servant leadership. That you take everything that you are, everything that you have, all that is to your disposal, your power, the things that you're good at, and you leverage them for the good of the people that are working for you. That you give them everything that they need to be able to do the best job. That you look out for their welfare. You do everything you can. You serve the people who you are leading, and they will serve you always. Just a side note. So that's a free one. You can get that one. Write that one down. Anyway, they say to this, again, these are the elders talking to Rehoboam. If you want to do this right, give them what they want. Lighten the load. They're going to serve you, and they're going to serve you fervently for always. So think about this. One of the things I want you to realize is you want to make sure that you put their interests ahead of yours. And that's what they were saying to Rehoboam. Put the interests of the people ahead of your own interests. Again, I can do a whole sermon, a whole message on just that. As leaders, we are to put the interest of those that we are leading ahead of ourselves. It's called servant leadership, and it works most effectively. And again, whether you believe that this is like, the holy book, or, if you can forget Jesus, forget God, whatever, this makes sense. Those of you that have people who you love to work for, it's because they have put your interests ahead of theirs. Again, I've been blessed to have wonderful, wonderful people with whom I've worked and I've worked for, or worked under, and those people that I most desire to work for seemed like they would bend over backwards to make sure I was doing well. And in turn, I bent over backwards to make sure they were getting everything that they needed. So again, they say to Rehoboam, put their interests ahead of yours. But let's look at what Rehoboam did. But Rehoboam rejected the advice the elders gave him. Now again, you want to get from here to where you wish to be. Rehoboam wished to be king. And they told him, these elders, serve those people that you're leading, and they're going to serve you. But Rehoboam rejected this. Because again, remember, somebody knows how to get you from here to there. Someone knows. But Rehoboam rejected the advice the elders gave him. Yeah, but no thanks. Think about this. What they told him, it was what he needed to hear. But it was not what he wanted to do. It was what he needed to hear, but it was not what he wanted to do. Think about that. What he wanted to do it's incredible. What he wanted to do was not what they told him. He wanted to hear what he wanted to do, but they gave him what he needed to hear. And what he needed to hear was not what he wanted to do. So think about this. It was where he wished to be, but it was not how he wished to get there. They knew, he wanted to be leader, he wanted the people to follow them. That's where he wished to be, but I don't want to do with this servant thing. I don't want to do that. It's where he wished he was going to be, but it was not how he wished to get there. So think about that. And again, please know that when we do what we want to do, we often don't get where we wish to be. Let me say that again. When we do what we want to do and how we want to do it, we often don't get to the place where we wished we wanted to be. Again, this whole message series is wish you were here. We can't get where we wish to be. We can't get there where we wish to be if we do things the way we want to do them. Interesting. Again, Rehoboam rejected the advice the elders gave him. And again, I want you to think about this thing here. Again, I'm kind of saying this in the same way. Go to next slide. We usually end up exactly where we don't want to be when we do exactly what we want to do. I'm going to let that one sink in, and you can read it. We usually end up exactly where we do not want to be when we do exactly what we want to do. Think about this. And Rehoboam is a perfect example of how this whole thing kind of shakes out. The elders gave him what he should do. But again, Rehoboam rejected the advice. And he rejected the advice that the elders gave him. Look what Rehoboam does instead. Go to the next slide. And so he rejects the advice that the elders gave him, and he consults the young men who had grown up with him and were serving him. Men who had no more experience than he did, men who grew up, and some of them probably even younger than he consults them. Because we can go to people who will tell us what we want to hear. Right? You search hard and long enough, you will find someone who will tell you exactly what you want to hear. And Rehoboam takes he says, I'm going to reject the elders and the advice that they give. I'm going to consult with the young men. I'm going to consult with those that grew up with me, those who know me, those are my boys, I'm going to consult with them. And I'm going to consult with them, and it's interesting. Please be careful when you consult people who have a vested interest in you in terms of they get something from you. You sign their check, or you are their boss. It's interesting. You one day could be a manager or a regular employee, and then you become like the leader. It's amazing how much funnier you get. You weren't funny before, but now when you're a leader, you're funnier. You're not funnier, but people will laugh because you're the boss. Right? Don't believe the hype, really. It's not about that. And Rehoboam was putting people around him whose check he was signing. They were servants of his, and they were around his same age. They'd seen no more than he's seen, and probably even less. But he gets there, and he has these men around him that he grew up with him. So he's talking to his boys, and listen to what he says here. He asks them, what is your advice? What is your advice? How should we answer those people who say to me, lighten the yoke your father put on us? What do you think the young men said? Let's see. The young men who had grown up with him replied, these people have said to you, your father put a heavy yoke on us, but make our yoke lighter. Now tell them, my finger is thicker than your father's waist. Now, okay, you may not understand what that means. Solomon was a big man, right? As history looks at it, we don't know exactly how large, we don't know how much he weighed, but he was a big man. And here's how we would know that. In this time, food was not plentiful. It was common, unlike what we are accustomed to, it was common for people to go hungry for long periods of time. People who didn't go hungry were people who had money to buy food. And if you were heavy, probably means you had a lot of money to buy food. And so Solomon was really, really wealthy. And it's reported that Solomon was probably also kind of heavy. And what they say to him, basically to Rehoboam, Solomon's son, tell the people, here's what I want you to tell them. And this is kind of a figure of speech that they understood. My little finger is thicker than my father's waist. In other words, you know what? You thought he was big and bad. You thought that he was heavy on you. My little finger is thicker than his waist. Guess what? I'm going to be even worse on you. That's what they were saying. Tell the people that. Don't give them anything lighter. Don't take it away from them. Tell them it's going to get even worse because, you know what? My father, he was all right, but I'm the man. That's what they told him. My father laid on you a heavy yoke. I will make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions. And so again, this was kind of a whip that had glass and so forth and bones on the end of it. He's saying, listen, you think it was bad when my father was here? You thought it was heavy then? You ain't seen nothing yet. Because he was listening to the advice of those who were his same age, those whose check he would sign. Those who wanted to just simply please him and say yes to him. It is a bad thing when everybody around you says yes. It's a bad thing when you surround yourself with people who are only there to support your delusion, to make you think that you're all that. You better have somebody around who will tell you about yourself. Really. You need to have someone there. And so listen to what happens. 3 days later, Rehoboam, Jeroboam, I'm sorry. Now, this is the guy, remember, who had fled to Egypt. He comes back, Solomon's dead. People really had a kind of an affinity for Jeroboam because he knew how to run things. 3 days later, Jeroboam and all the people returned to Rehoboam. Now, they returned really figuring that Rehoboam was going to do exactly what these young guys were thinking about. That Rehoboam would not think about what his father did and lighten some things and make things better and do as the elders had advised him. They kind of knew, and we know that because they come back kind of prepared to talk to Rehoboam. So 3 days later, Jeroboam and all the people returned to Rehoboam, and the king had said, come back to me in 3 days. So they come back, Jeroboam and a crew of people, again, from Israel. The king answered the people harshly, rejecting the advice given him by the elders. So he made it up in his mind he's going to do this, and now he's doing it. No, forget that. I'm not lightening anything for you. I'm not doing anything. And he kind of goes through that and says that. We're going to pick up again the 16th verse. When all Israel saw that the king refused to listen to them, they answered the king. Now again, they answered the king something in writing, and what we find out is that there is actually what I'm going to show you is an excerpt from someone who was named Sheba, who was there kind of taking eyewitness accounts of what was being said, and listen to what is talked about. These group of people came prepared, figuring Rehoboam was not going to lighten the load, that he was going to do something else, kind of young and dumb, and do this thing, and so they came prepared to talk to him. Listen to what they say, and I'll try to translate this maybe into more common vernacular so you understand what they were saying. What share? Now, see, now they're talking to Rehoboam now, remember. What share do we have in David? David was his grandfather, was Rehoboam's grandfather. And they're saying, listen, what share do we have in David? What part in Jesse's son? So they started, in a sense, kind of playing the dozens a little bit. All right, usually this happens with moms, but right now he's talking about, so your grandfather, and your great-grandfather, like what do we have to do with them? What are we messing around with them? He says, and then they say, to Israel, to everybody, to your tents. In other words, go home. Listen, go home, Israel. Look after your own house, David. Now, they're even talking to Rehoboam, but they're basically saying, we're talking to your grandfather. David was thought to be the king of all kings, that he was like the dude. And he says, listen, look after your own house, David. In other words, Rehoboam, go rule yourself. Choice words, they're kind of getting all up in here because, when you get excited, your hands go up, and, I'm not exactly sure what all this means, but it's supposed to be offensive. And I'm sure that they're, right? You want to offend somebody, just Anyway, so I'm sure they're in. So listen, Rehoboam, I don't care about your grandfather. I don't care about your daddy. I don't care about your great. Listen, I don't care about none of them. And by the way, Israel, we're not even taking this. We're going home. We're not going to support this. We are bouncing. We're boycotting. We are out of here. Rehoboam, go rule yourself. That's what they said to him in response. They knew what he was going to do. So listen to what happens. Now again, these are the Israelites. These are the chosen people of God. This is the nation of Israel who basically says to the king who is lined up to come in next, Rehoboam, after his father Solomon, go rule yourself. So the Israelites went home. But as for the Israelites who were living in the towns of Judah, Rehoboam still ruled over them. I need to let you know what happened here. This is the point in the history of Israel where it's the nation of Israel split. And it didn't split 6 and 6 because there's 12 tribes. It split 10 and 2. And the 2, Judah, what his thought is, again, you'll see this. So the Israelites went home, but again, as for the Israelites who were living in the towns of Judah, Rehoboam still ruled over them. So in essence, Rehoboam gets 2 tribes. Jeroboam gets 10. Listen to what goes on here. King Rehoboam, now he's king. He sends out a gentleman named Adoniram. That's easy for me to say. So Adoniram basically took the position that Jeroboam used to have over all the forced labor, and he was ruling over them. And so he's going to try to get back his labor pool. So King Rehoboam sent out Adoniram, who was in charge of forced labor. But all Israel stoned him to death. They said, oh, listen, we got stones because this is what we do, and we're going to stone you. They stoned the messenger, the one that represented King Rehoboam. They stoned him to death. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. 2 tribes under Rehoboam, 10 tribes under Jeroboam. Again, if you think about this, and if you go through, if you read the Bible, and I know I've had confusion at times, and again, even, I'm not saying I got it all straight now even, but you'll often hear, and it's kind of different, like you read about the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and you read about, Israel and Judah, and so what you see right now happen is we have this succession that Saul, David, Solomon, then we have a split. Jeroboam, again, he was the northern. Again, when you hear Israel, it's thinking about the northern part. He had 10 tribes. Jeroboam, he had the southern part, which is often, you'll hear Judah called. He has 2 tribes, and they split. And to this day, there's still animosity. To this day, there's still problems. To this day, there's still, again, all kinds of situations. It's interesting that as we look at what's going on, all this happened, and this major split that lasts even to this day, happened because Rehoboam heard what was going on and what he should do that the elders told him, and he did something totally different. They told him how to get to where he wished he was as king, and he didn't listen. And in so doing, the tribes split. And even to this day, there's animosity, there's conflict between them. We have skipped 2 slides here, one more. So let me tell you some life lessons from Rehoboam. All right, life lessons that we can apply to ourselves. Let's wrap this up and we'll get it going. First of all, somebody knows what you need to do to get where you wish to be. Somebody knows. Wherever it is that you wish to be, right? A better relationship, again, better kind of communication with your children, a better job, a fitter health. Again, we have done exactly what we want to do, and it doesn't get us to where we wish we were. Reason, again, why you are the size that you are is because there is some point you said, I'm not going to exercise, I'm going to eat Twinkies. I said you, but I was talking about me. But again, somebody knows how to get, they know what you need to do in order to get you where you wish to be. So it's important that we understand that. Listen to this. Mature people know when they don't know and seek out those who do know. Mature people know what they don't know. Again, that's one of the things that you start realizing. And again, it's interesting because your parents, again, God blesses us with parents, and God gives to us incredible insight through them. And again, they are just dumb as rocks until you're about 35, and all of a sudden you go, wow, they're really smart. No, they were smart all along. The dumb as rocks part, we applied that to the wrong person. But somebody knows. And when we get mature, and we know when we don't know, and we seek someone who does know. That's important for us to understand. Immature people seek out people who will tell them what they want to hear. Immature people, again, are going to look for yes men. And so what I encourage you to do, again, let me ask you to consider doing this as you get to places. Ask. Go to someone who is older, who's wiser, someone who's been, and say to this, knowing what you know, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Knowing what you know, what would you do if you were in my shoes? And then, by the way, do it. So let me give you some free advice. And again, let me just say this. This may be tougher for us as men because, we don't want anybody to be the boss of us. You're not the boss of me. So I get a check and I pay bills and I have a mortgage. You're not the boss of me, right? Some of us won't do some things because someone told us that was the thing to do. So and again, that's why there's like not as many men in church usually, because it's like you think that I'm going to come to a church and let that guy, I don't care if you call him pastor, elder, whatever, minister, he's going to tell me what to do? No. And again, we'll sit here, we'll listen to stuff, as men, we'll get into the car and we'll talk to our wives, our girlfriend, our significant other, whoever it might be, and it's like, yeah, it was a good service, but that guy he should have said this. It would have been better if he had said it this way. Again, I get that. What I'm asking you to do in terms of, and I'm giving you this free, and again, you don't have to do it this week, guys, right? Wait till next week when it's your own idea, like when it comes, okay, so write down 3 things you wish you had been doing all along and begin doing them. 3 things you wish you'd been doing all along and then begin doing them. It's not good enough to plan, by the way, right? It is not intention, but direction that determines your destiny. Let me make sure you understand that. You've got to do something. It's not just what you intend to do that makes a difference. Your direction will determine where you're going and where you're getting to. Not where you intend. I mean, you can intend to go, again, you can intend to go to New York City. But if you go out to Interstate 87, the thruway, and you go towards Albany, you can intend all you want. You're not getting to New York City that way. It's direction, not intention, that determines your destiny. And so do something. So again, write down 3 things. We ask you to ask somebody, write down 3 things you wish you've been doing all along and begin doing them. And then here's another one. Write down 3 things that hinder you from getting to where you wish to be and stop doing it. 3 things that hinder you getting to where you wish to be and stop. Now, I say that in hopefully in practicality, that if we wish, and that's what, again, wish you were here. That's what this message series talks about. I wish I was. I wish I could do this. I wish I was able to have this. I wish this relationship was this way. I wish that I had more money. I wish I had, extra margin. I wish. In order for you to get where you wish to be, we may have to do something different than we've been doing, or do something differently than we've been doing. But the idea here is write down 3 things that hinder you from getting to where you wish to be and stop. Let me leave you with a scripture from Rehoboam's Rehoboam's father. Solomon was the wisest man and gave to us many, many things in the form of proverbs. We talked about a proverb last week, but here's a proverb that he's going to give to us, and I think it's an important one for us to remember. The prudent see danger. And again, one version says the prudent see danger coming. But the prudent see danger and take refuge. But the simple keep going and pay the penalty. The prudent see danger. They see what's coming on, and they take refuge. But the simple keep going, and they pay what we call the stupid tax. Because one version of it says, but the simple, keep going and pay the penalty. Such an important understanding for what we need to do as we wish that we were here. And by the way, not only do you wish you were in a particular place, but God has a wish for your life. And here's what I want you to know. Somebody knows how to get from where you are to where you wish to be. And we need to consult them. My hope is that, again, there's some practical things that, again, if they need to be your ideas, then take them. I mean, that's fine. And again, if by Tuesday or Thursday you won't even remember that I spoke this, and this will come to you when you wake up in the morning, and you can embrace it as your own idea, then do it. But 3 things that you need to start doing, and 3 things that maybe are hindering where you wish to be, stop doing. And ask someone, hey, given who you are and what would you do if you were in my shoes? Somebody knows how to get you from where you are to where you wish to be.